Hey guys, religious trauma and conversion therapy represent a devastating conflict between one's authentic self and imposed faith, causing deep psychological wounds that demand our attention and understanding and commitment to healing. Today, we have a profoundly important conversation ahead of us, and we're honored to be joined by the incredibly knowledgeable Dr. Nick Santo, an accomplished licensed clinical social worker and a passionate advocate of the LGBTQ plus community. With over 15 years of experience, Dr. Santo has dedicated his career to helping individuals navigate through complex emotions, shame, and trauma related to their sexuality and identity. Dr. Santos specifically focuses on helping individuals who have experienced religious trauma, and that includes survivors of conversion therapy. He's here today to shed light on us on the topic that demands our attention: the shame around asking for help if you're queer, especially in the face of religious trauma. Here we go. Dr. Santo, let's jump right into this important topic. So, first of all, can you explain what religious trauma is and how it specifically impacts individuals within the LGBTQ plus community?
I can. And thank you for having me on today, Michael. I appreciate it. You can call me Nick also.
Okay, Nick, thank you.
And specifically to religious trauma, how it affects LGBTQ plus people is that most LGBTQ plus or sexual and gender minority people don't realize their identity, kind of that they may be kind of different than others, like they're early in their development. Mm-hmm. And so the messaging or the negative messaging around either like this, like that's so gay, or it's a sin to be gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, right? That messaging starts really early, and that starts to get embedded in a belief system about themselves, right? And so as time goes on, if someone is embedded in a religious community where it is a sin and expressed as much that a child over time may start to adapt and adjust themselves and kind of suppress parts of themselves as they realize that I'm not like everyone else here, in a form, in a protective form. Mostly, I have to protect myself and I have to protect my relationships.
Gotcha. There's certain I don't want to call it religions or faiths or belief systems where it's worse for the child than other ones, or not?
It's worse for the child than what?
Sorry. Than other religions or other faiths.
I wouldn't put that necessarily on a scale because I'm not entirely sure. I think that it in part it may depend on how the faith is used, right? And so I don't want to target like specific denominations, but because I think that the Bible is what's talked about the most nowadays, right? That's kind of what's in the mainstream discussion right now, right? Mm-hmm. And so using that as an example is that there are people who are religious and maybe Catholic or Christian and use their values to embrace and love and hold and celebrate someone who for all of who they are without kind of pointing out you're a sinner.
Yeah.
And we're in other terms, kind of where there are policies and laws being put in place now throughout the states, at least, they're using, I think, kind of a lot of the religious values to say, like, this is wrong. This needs to be condemned, right? This needs to be eradicated, right? And these are very harmful terms, and these are very harmful policies that are affecting, I think, people on their day-to-day.
Give me, you've worked with a lot of people. Like, what's like a common story that you hear from people? How does it go?
I think for the most common thing I hear, and I don't know if maybe people are drawn to me to kind of work on this particular thing, and it's a lot of it is that they find that they're over accommodating to everybody, right? And in relationships, they may find themselves in either abusive relationships or find themselves, feeling like they're not getting a lot out of either certain friendships or romantic relationships or even family relationships because a lot of their decisions that they're making are really in line with what does someone else want and need from me, not what can I get from them, right? And
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Like trying to please everyone else so that you fit in.
It's a people pleasing kind of behavior. Yeah. And in terms of like kind of what I was talking about earlier, to maintain some sort of connection with someone, to have a
Yeah.
relationship, I need to completely disregard any of my needs, any of my wants, in the service of other people.
Yeah. How do you get people to stop understanding that part and start believing in themselves? How does one overcome that?
I think for some people, it's not always like apparent. Like it's not the thing that they're recognizing right away. They're recognizing that there's like a lack of fulfillment in their relationships. And so part of the work that I do with people is trying to understand the relationships. Who are these people to you? How did you decide to keep them in your life, right? What's making you keep them around, right?
Right.
I wonder if there's something of value there, right? And starting to unpack what that is and what that experience is like, for them, and also where do they feel unfulfilled, right? And eventually these kind of pieces of the puzzle come together when you start to recognize certain patterns of behavior, certain patterns of thinking. Um, I was just kind of tie it into maybe a little bit of the religious trauma aspect of it. Is that it specifically? I'll go back to the Bible again. I feel like I'm targeting. I feel bad, but
You're not. We're talking about the subject in general.
right.
Yeah.
That there's a sense of like subjugation, like of self to other people, right?
Mhm.
And that the thoughts, the feelings, and the and actions that one has, that they all come together as one. And so if I have a thought and a feeling, then I am obviously this thing. I am obviously this person. I'm terrible. I'm bad. I'm not. I don't have value. Um, Whereas thoughts and feelings don't necessarily always mean that. Right? They're
Gotcha.
just thoughts and feelings. They're there to understand, right? To try to recognize that something's coming up for us that we're trying to understand about ourselves. The behavior in part, sometimes people feel like maybe I react like in a very aggressive way sometimes, and I don't want to, and that's not the person that I am, and very well may not be. But when you feel like you're contained so much or kind of wound up into kind of concealing yourself and concealing your needs and addressing those needs, then
Mhm.
you may find yourself getting really irritable and um, find it challenging to really engage with other people in meaningful ways.
And I think I don't even know how one survives daily with that kind of pressure. Um, and one thing that I really, really, really don't understand is the idea of conversion therapy.
Yeah,
Explain that because I want people to understand what it is, and then we want to talk about these. I'm going to call them evil people that try to convert people to something else. So,
yeah.
talk about conversion therapy for a minute.
So conversion therapy is as horrifying as it sounds. I think it's literally telling someone that whoever you think you are, you're not, and you cannot be that person. And because if you are, then you cannot be with us, right? So there's a social and relational aspect to it, right? That also kind of like leaks into how someone perceives themselves, right? So what ends up happening in the conversion, at least practices, is that there's a lot of humiliation. There's a lot of projected shame onto them, and a lot of learning to distrust your own thoughts, distrust your own experiences of your body and your relationships, and going back to what I was saying earlier, kind of in service of other people.
So, you talk to people who are victims of
Yeah,
conversion therapy,
yeah.
but let's talk just for a second about why is it that people who profess that conversion therapy is necessary and good, what do you think their issue is? Why do they think this?
I think people, for some, because conversion therapy is not solely connected to religious based
Mhm.
beliefs, but large, there's a large part of people that they connect that with those beliefs. So there's a deep seated belief that what they're doing is right, that you're going to find the Lord, right? You're going to find Jesus, you're going to find God, and you're going to come back to us. That whatever's happening now, you hit a bump in the road, and you're going to come back to us because you're completely lost, right? And so
Yeah,
that works into the narrative of
yeah,
you don't trust your thoughts, you're not on the right path. We know what path you need to be on, and so does this being, right?
right.
And So I do think in part there are some people, some families that really do believe that that is the only way. But inevitably, what it ends up causing, and what I end up seeing when people come my way, is really deep cuts.
Yeah. I mean,
To
it sounds brutal.
Yeah,
It really
it can
does.
be for some. Yeah, for I think for many people. I mean, just who have gone through it, it's psychologically and emotionally devastating.
Yeah. Talk about the process of healing, like especially from religious trauma. How does it start, and how do you unlearn the shame associated with that and with queer identity?
What I would say is that the beginning stages are oftentimes the hardest part, because there has to be a level of awareness and recognition that you've been hurt by people that you love and that you believe love you in return.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so accepting that, right, not vilifying them, but just accepting that that's what happened, is sometimes a really hard pill for people to swallow. Um, and I think as you start to kind of move forward in the treatment itself, the healing really comes from what do you, reclaiming yourself, almost essentially reclaiming a sense of your identity, a sense of self, and even if that includes your faith, because not all people who have gone through conversion therapy or have been like kicked out of their family homes want to disconnect from their faith at all. They want to keep it, right? But what is it that you want to keep?
That is a good question, right? Because you want to believe in a higher being, you want to
Yeah,
move up that ladder, and if someone up that ladder is telling you, no, you can't come this way unless you change, that has got to
right,
be devastatingly hard.
right, exactly. Yeah, and so I think coming to terms with that, and knowing that maybe there's another way of believing, and holding your faith and holding your values toward a higher power, whatever that may be, right? And still be yourself, right? You'll still be loved in at the pearly gates, right? That this thing is not gonna kick you out, or kind of uh, leave you in the depths of hell. And there are faiths that are out there that and churches, mostly interfaith communities that I've been in contact with, have also been helpful in the therapeutic process. And it's like therapy and finding a community, because largely what ends up getting lost is a community of people, which is in many cases big.
When you do your therapy, do you work one-on-one with people, or is it better to work in groups with people that have the same sort of trauma and going on in their lives?
Yeah. So right now I'm working individually only, but I'm right now trying to work out the details to set up group therapy
Good.
for people. I feel like that I'm assuming like your intuition on that and kind of your connection to that, I think is really important, because it's that you want to now rebuild communities. And I feel like that part of my own work is going to have to also be offering that as an option.
Do people get away from the shame, or if when you've gone through and now they're like, forget these people. I've got my faith.
Yeah.
I'm going on. Tell us about that. I want to hear the happy side.
Yeah. So there is a happy side. Yes, there are people who come out on the other end and start to learn to love themselves and learn how. And I think the most important part here is learn to let people in and trust other people. Right. I think that when at least in therapy, is that if someone has gone through conversion therapy, they don't trust other people, especially therapists. How can you?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if that was your starting point, right? So opening yourself up to relationships and connections, and sharing that, and learning how to kind of cultivate your space that is like loving and accepting and open, and I want to say flexible, right? That you can be you, whoever that is, and you're welcome here, and that has to be reciprocal.
So who started the conversion therapy? Which I'd had to be some psychologist or religious figure, or
you're testing my trivia here, like in terms of conversion therapy. So I don't. So no, well, I don't. To the best of my knowledge, what I'll say is that I don't believe it started in the field. I think that the field took it places that it shouldn't have gone, of mental health. So I think there were people who started in communities, like religious communities, who said, "Look, I changed, right, and I can change you too." and that started to grow, and that gained a lot of power and a lot of momentum. People who felt a deep sense of shame in who they were gravitated towards those groups because they wanted to be like everybody else and stay part of those communities. They didn't want to be kicked out or unrecognized. Right? They wanted to be recognized, and in ways that maybe didn't always serve them. So your question is,
it's interesting. Every time like I have this conversation with somebody about conversion therapy, I love sci-fi. I know it sounds weird, but
so do I.
There was an episode of Star Trek at one point where everybody on this one planet was in same-sex relationships, except for the one girl that was attracted to Riker. And it was like such an eye-opening thing for people who are cis, I guess.
Yeah.
That you look at this and you go like, wow, that really does like go Riker. But then the whole point of the story, I suppose, is the planet wants to convert this one person back to their side.
Right.
And Riker's like, he keeps thinking like, no, you don't want to convert. And in fact, that was a really eye-opening show.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it helps to kind of like flip the script, right?
Yes.
How would you look at this through another lens? And that was I think a good way to kind of share that. I think metaphorically, and using that like I don't remember this state representative's name, but he kind of equated LGBTQ people to mutants and X-Men, and the whole like theme behind X-Men is that it's okay to be different and that you're not always going to be treated with the respect that you probably deserve, and you have to. Part of it is fighting for that, right? And fighting for your place in this world, right? That you're allowed to be different and embrace that.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that rep was a little bit doesn't really know his X-Men history.
No, I remember seeing that story a while back, and like I'm going, like, dude, you completely got it wrong. Like the X-Men, the X-Men is the personification of being queer and trying to be accepted. So, like, don't get down on the X-Men. They're awesome.
I agree.
Yeah. Who's your favorite one, by the way?
Gambit. It's always been Gambit. Like some little cool. Renegade. I think he represented, in my childhood, someone that I wanted to be, this kind of like suave, kind of very like smooth person. It's like really had like tons of tricks up his sleeve, like kind of always kind of very like just really relatable, but he's also kind of like a little stuck up, a little bit conceited, but things that I wasn't,
That's awesome. Yeah. Oh man. So hey, is there any way that the I'm just going to say generically that the church can actually help people get through this? Is that that's their demon and they can't get away, or do they just need to go to a different church or a different faith? How do you do this? This is like a big roadblock in someone's life.
It is. It's quite a hurdle. But what I will say is that if your faith is really important to you, I would say that look for a therapist who will be open and to listening and understanding what your faith is, how you want to practice it, what was important to you, how do you want to incorporate it into your everyday life. And while you're doing that, trying to find communities that will fit those same values, because they're out there. And I think kind of where we are today in the world with like technology, that a lot of churches now, especially the interfaith churches, have virtual seminars, virtual meetings. There's one group actually based out in LA, and I feel bad because I'm forgetting their name, but they host, I think, monthly or weekly support groups for people who have survived conversion therapy, and they meet, I think, for an hour and a half or something like that. And so they're a community of people who really support each other and have come together and to help each other through.
I love that. That's amazing. So let's do something. We're going to do something fun with you. We're going to play a little bit of this or that with Santo. I'm going to ask you a question. You can give me two choices. You can answer. You can choose one, the other. You cannot choose neither or both. So this, let's see how Nick thinks.
If it's chocolate or vanilla, those kinds of questions, I think those will be easy for me.
Let's start with the easy one. Then. How about coffee or tea while discussing a case?
Oh, coffee.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right. Now, how hard was that? That one was easy.
Right.
How about early morning therapy sessions or late
Ooh,
night sessions?
early morning.
Yeah. Okay. I'm a night person, so yeah.
I'm an early riser, but I like the night for myself though. Like I get and like just kind of decompressing, cooking dinner.
How about handwritten therapy notes or digital?
Digital,
How
all the
about
way.
I don't know if yeah, Freud might have something to say about that. How about Freud or Jung?
Freud has something to say about everything.
Yeah.
Uh, I uh, I would lean more towards Freud mostly because he's been a big part of my early like development in psychotherapy. But I don't
Okay.
really lean towards Freud.
Okay. How about traditional office or cozy home office for therapy?
Ooh, I'm gonna say traditional office.
Okay. What about cognitive behavioral therapy or psychodynamic therapy? You can choose neither or both on these.
So, I'm gonna say psychodynamic because that's essentially what I do.
Okay.
But I have respect for the CBT folks. So
Okay. Are you like more solution focused or client centered?
client centered.
Okay, good. New York City or Manhattan or Brooklyn?
Ooh,
Yeah, come on.
I'm a Brooklyn boy. Brooklyn.
All right. For continuing education, how about in-person conferences or webinars?
Ooh, in person. Actually, I found that out about myself recently.
Oh, really? But
Yeah.
how did you do that?
So during the pandemic, a lot of the CEUs and all the continuing ed stuff was digital, and which was nice to do from your home because you don't have to go anywhere. But what I love about I think being in person is that like the socializing, right, and the connecting with people. I mean, I went to
Yes.
like 3 conferences over the last year, and I've met so many amazing people that I don't think I would have like interacted with if I didn't like if I wasn't present. And
Yeah.
so just that for me was just, and I got to see places that I don't normally see, which so it kind of worked out.
I
Yeah.
totally am with you. Like, we've been behind the camera so long,
Yeah.
it's nice to touch people, right?
Yeah, it is. It
We
is.
should start doing this show at Starbucks.
I'll meet you there. Like
Okay.
I'm avid supporter, I guess.
Now, this one, I don't know. I try to think how the guests are going to answer this. I'm trying to think what you're going to say. Qualitative or quantitative?
Ooh,
Because they both have a purpose, right?
they do, and they're both extremely valuable in their own right. Um, that's a tough one, and I can't
Yeah.
use you. I can't. Yeah, that's really tough. I think they're both valuable in their own right, and then when there's a cross section of the two, I think that you really it's just so much amazing and great data that we can get. Um, I'm gonna go qualitative. I'm gonna and that's bias because I do
Uh,
a lot of my work tends to be more like qualitative, like focused and like gathering information of like over a
okay.
period of time. Yeah.
I got you on that one. About psychoanalysis books or LGBTQ plus novels?
Uh, why can't I choose both?
Yeah, I know, right?
uh,
No, you're on a desert island. You can only take one. What do you take?
oh, okay. So if I'm on a desert island and I'm not going anywhere, I'll do the novels.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think novels. I love YA novels.
Yeah.
Keaton is writing one. I can't wait until it's done.
Really?
Yeah, so that's gonna be amazing. So,
I will certainly order a copy.
okay, there we go. How about yoga or meditation?
Yoga.
Oh, do you do yoga yourself right now?
I should do more of it.
Okay. Well, I should do some of it. Listening to music or going on a walk.
Both.
Right.
Um, music helps me bring me down. So yeah, music.
Yeah, I'm a musician, so I'll have to go with music on that myself.
Nice.
And I'm lazy, so music.
What?
Okay, last one.
Yeah,
Inspirational quotes or success stories?
success stories.
Yeah, right?
I feel like there's a ton of motivation, inspiration in those alone, and there's a lot to learn from that.
Awesome. So we definitely want people to stay in touch with you or get in touch with you.
Yeah.
We've got your website, nicholassanto.psychotherapy.com. And also you are up on Instagram at Dr. Nick Santo.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna leave this up on the screen so people can see it as we're buzzing out of here. You're super fun to talk with. It's an important
Likewise.
subject, and thank you for being here and helping us like understand it. I learned something today.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This was such a great time.
Good. Well, thank you everybody for being here, and we'll catch you in the future. Bye, everybody.